Widely recognized as one of the greatest works of Western literature, Dante's seminal narrative poem, The Inferno, broke long-established literary paradigms by weaving historical characters into a fictional story. While certain figures need little introduction to Western audiences, one Arabic name deviates from among the archetypal personas of Julius Caesar, Socrates, and Euclid. Centuries before the first words of Dante's Inferno were inked, Persian culture had experienced a renewed blossoming and subsequently battled the culture of the Arabs for dominance over the Islamic world. Fortunately for history, this enlightening cultural contest emanated abundant works of literature, science, art, and philosophy from both civilizations. One of the many medieval rivals to Baghdad, the city of Bukhara, capital of the Samanid Empire, presented an oasis of Persianate culture and the arts. In its sprawling streets of the 10th and 11th centuries, a young teenage boy would be seen giving medical advice and treatment to the public, while simultaneously studying and revising all academic disciplines of the time. Later described by scholars as having the mind of Goethe and the genius of Leonardo da Vinci, this vibrant youth would go on to become the face and icon of the Islamic Golden Age. His name, Ibn Sina, would be remembered for centuries in all academic circles, his work being utilized even by those who would label him a heretic. His comprehension of all areas of knowledge would be revered by his followers, who named him a Sheikh al-Ra'is, chief of all wise men, master of all sciences. Abu Ali al-Hussein ibn Sina, or as Dante would call him, Avicenna, was born in 980 CE in Afshana, a town comparatively small to the neighboring city of Bukhara, where he would eventually migrate to at a young age with his family. According to his autobiography, Ibn Sina was born into an educated household. His mother Sitara would raise him, and his father worked as a governor and an intellectual. Witnessing the deep conversations between his father and various guests, including an Indian shopkeeper who was apparently talented in arithmetic, Ibn Sina's early curiosity in philosophy and science would spark. He is said to have memorized the entire Quran by age 10 and grasped the Arabic language and literature at the same time, and continued on studying jurisprudence and Islamic law. But when he felt his teachers had taught him all they could, he independently read logic, physics, mathematics, medicine, and philosophy, further enriching his knowledge. Metaphysics in particular took a long time for him to apprehend, and he claims to have read and memorized Aristotle's Metaphysics 40 times before finally coming across a copy of Al-Farabi's treatise on it, which aided him so much that after reading it, he hastened to give alms to the poor in gratitude. By age 18, he stated, "I continued until I had made myself master of all the sciences. I now comprehended them to the limits of human possibility." Ibn Sina wasn't a very pious figure, despite what some may believe. Like many elites of the time, he had an extremely outgoing personality and loved to party, drink, and surround himself with women, even if this contradicted his religious beliefs. Ibn Sina's career began at 21 with the task of curing the Samanid prince of a seemingly incurable disease. Where other physicians had failed, he succeeded, and was rewarded with access to the vast royal libraries and circles of scholars whom he made use of extensively. From here, he would become the most famous and one of the most influential philosophers of the Islamic Golden Age, writing a total of 400 works in a much more fluent and thorough style that would supersede the works of philosophers before him, including his own avowed spiritual master, Al-Farabi. His magnum opus, Kitab al-Shifa, or Book of Healing, which was mostly written from memory due to Ibn Sina's constant travel, would act as a vital philosophical encyclopedia that would further synthesize the works of Greek and Arab philosophers. For Ibn Sina, philosophy was a topic of therapy, a discipline that seeks to heal the soul in much the same way that medicine heals the body. This was certainly not a unique view, as many held this opinion before him. What was more or less unique to Ibn Sina was his attempt to reconcile Aristotelian notions of the universe, such as the universe being eternal, with the Islamic doctrine of the universe being a creation of God. For this, it is important to note how Ibn Sina understood the discipline of metaphysics, which was, for him, the study of the immaterial. Firstly, Ibn Sina makes his famous distinction between necessary and contingent beings, where the latter refers to objects that have a cause or explanation for their existence. If this cause did not occur, the object itself may not have existed. Take yourself as an example. For you to have existed, you depended on the meeting of your mother and father, which, if never happened, may have led to you never being born. Thus you are, like nearly all other objects in the universe, a contingent being. But for Ibn Sina, a logical problem occurs if every single thing in the universe is contingent, an infinite regress. The logical fallacy that refers to the impossibility of having an infinite set of objects, which would require a never-ending infinite set of explanations. Thus, if everything in the universe is contingent and caused, and cannot go on ad infinitum, there must be a necessary being that must always have existed, could not cease to exist, and does not depend on anything else. For Ibn Sina, all this pointed to evidence of God or Allah, a proof of the truthful, as it would come to be known. But how exactly did this being create the universe? Ibn Sina controversially proposed that God could not have created the universe in time, as this would mean that there would have been a moment where God changed his mind, unbefitting to a supreme ruler above any form of change or temporal laws. To make things simpler, he provides the analogy of someone turning a key to open a lock. While the hand turns the key simultaneously, the key is still dependent on the hand. In this way, the universe depends on God, irrespective of it being created co-eternally and outside of time. This idea proved extremely controversial, as it meant that God was pre-eternally compelled to have created the universe and that the universe did not have a temporal beginning. Ibn Sina's version of the cosmological argument and its implications would be attacked by later philosophers such as Al-Ghazali and Ibn Rushd. After having proven the existence of God, Ibn Sina turned his attention to understanding the human being, namely through understanding our essence, the soul. Naturally, he asked the question of whether a soul even exists and formulated a thought experiment which, according to him, clearly answered the question. Imagine a man suspended in mid-air with no faculties of sensory perception. That is, no sensation of sight, hearing, smell, touch, or taste. This man, or woman, has never known what it is to have had senses and currently cannot physically feel anything. If it is conceivable that this individual will have an idea of his or her own existence, it follows that we have a non-material or non-physical sense of self, which for Ibn Sina constituted the definition of the soul, or nafs in Arabic. This thought experiment would demonstrate how advanced Ibn Sina was in his thinking, as a similar idea for the existence of a self would not be conceived of in the West for another 600 years. Ibn Sina truly represented the peak of knowledge and intellectual enterprise of the Islamic world in the medieval era. His mode of writing, which trumped the styles of previous philosophers, has still not lost itself in the sands of time. His cosmological argument has been built upon by even modern philosophers, and the physicians of history would find it difficult to avoid his voluminous works. Ibn Sina's extravagant life eventually caught up with him, with some saying he died of overindulgence. Yet, while giving his final alms to the poor, it is said that he read the Holy Quran for 3 days straight until his death, leaving with the quote, "I prefer a short life with width to a narrow one with length."